Addressing. So today we will discuss about two resources. One resource is compute, which is related to servers and all these kind of computing things. And then one is related to networking, how we can build network there on their cloud. So then we will move on. Like we have the second module. First, we understood the core architectural concept physically and logically. And then now we will be going specifically to the resources in domain 6, Azure Compute and Networking Services. Like in this session, what we will be having our objective will be to understand about the compute and networking, two main topics. Inside these main topics, we will be discussing about different compute types and different networking types. If you see on the left side, compute type have different types. One is container, one is virtual machine, one is function. So when sometime we need to create virtual machines, sometime we need to create containers, sometime we need to create functions also. And then inside virtual machines, we can also have machine sets, scale set, like we can build multiple virtual machines together. If one virtual machine fail, we can have another virtual machine. So we will understand the scale sets or availability sets. Then we will see two types of scaling also, horizontal scaling and vertical scaling. Like we can upgrade our RAM and processor also vertically, or we can expand our multiple virtual machines also. Then we will little bit discuss about Azure Virtual Desktop. Virtual Desktop mean you don't need a hardware to use. You can just use a window inside the cloud. That is called Virtual Desktop. So you will just log into the cloud. There will be already built-in windows there, Windows 11, Windows 10. You don't need to have a laptop. You don't need to install Windows 11. You just need to log into the cloud. Already built-in window will be there. Virtual windows will be there, and you will use that window inside. Everything will be available. Then we have to understand about the application hosting option. We want to host application over the cloud, and we will be having option of Azure Web Apps. Like I want to build a web page, I don't need to take domain and everything. I will just go and I will use the web app from the cloud. And there will be containers also. There will be virtual machines for the. So these are the option will be available to create web hosting. Then we will move toward the virtual networking. Like virtual networking physically, if we have our own data center, we need switches and routers and all these kind of firewall things. But over the cloud, we don't need these physical devices. So we just need to create virtual networks, virtual switches, virtual routers, VNet peering. We need to create two subnets together also. And then we will have Azure and DNS, VPN gateway, different connectivity options are there. We can create our own VPN connection, or we can use express route, like we can use their infrastructure to send data in. And then finally we will understand public and private endpoints related to networking. So ultimately we will be understanding about all related to compute services and all related to underlying networking of the Azure. So first thing first, in our session what we will be understanding, we will be understanding about the virtual machine. The main point of our first lecture is the virtual machine. So what is mean by virtual machine? Last time we already understood that virtual machine is a part of physical hardware. Like I am having a physical laptop. I want to test Windows 11, Windows 10 and all these services, but I cannot run it on single hardware. So I need to virtualize. Like I am having 32 GB RAM. If I will run Windows 11, Windows 11 will use only 4 GB to 8 GB. The rest of the RAM is just not used. So I want to use multiple operating system in my one laptop. So what I can do, I can create different virtual machines. One virtual machine for Windows 11, one virtual machine for Windows 10, one virtual machine for maybe Linux or Mac or something like that. So this virtual machine will provide us to utilize more efficiently hardware. So Azure Virtual Machine provides us the virtualized server. Like VM gives you the flexibility of virtualization without need of purchasing or maintaining the physical hardware. You don't need to purchase 32 GB RAM for each and every software. You will use the part of that hardware. So you can fully control the operating system, run the custom software, configure hosting exactly what you want to use. So you don't need to buy full hardware. Like one day you want to use one virtual machine, you want to use only 4 GB RAM, they will provide you. Next day you want to use two virtual machines, you need 8 GB RAM, they will provide you. So whatever is your need, you don't need to worry about. But this will give you a full structure. You can manage the virtual machine, you can upgrade. So last time we understood about three services: AAS, PaaS, and SaaS: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. So this virtual machine will be coming in the category of infrastructure as a service. Like infrastructure as a service was 70% will be managed by ourselves and 30% will be managed by the cloud. Similarly, PaaS we understand 50-50, and SaaS we understand 70% will be their responsibility, only 20-30% will be our responsibility. So infrastructure as a service is an example of virtual machine. Okay, next, if we will be having that virtual machine, what we can do with this virtual machine? So you can rapidly provision VMs using pre-configured images also. Like you don't need a Windows specifically to install on that machine. So already built-in image will be there over the internet. You will get that image and you can put it on that virtual machine. That virtual machine will be ready to use, which may include operating systems, softwares like development tools, everything will be in it. So this will allow you to create in minutes. If you have your own laptop, you want to install a virtual hardware, so you will take time. You will install Windows, maybe it will take 30 minutes. But over the cloud, if you will create a virtual machine, it will take only minutes. Within 2 minutes, 3 minutes, virtual machine will be ready because it will not fully install the operating system. Already built-in image will be there, and you will just start, and it will create a virtual machine within minute. So hours time will be go to minutes with the virtual machine. Next, we have scaling option also. So if you will go to the scaling option, so what scaling option is available? So inside the virtual machine, what is virtual machine and physical servers are virtual machine? If you see on the right side of the diagram, if you are using a physical server, that will be a physical full box. But if you will make it virtual machine, this virtual machine will be having a hypervisor and stuff. Hypervisor means that software will manage to create multiple virtual machines inside. So it can create different virtual machine with different RAM, different hardware, different software. So virtual machine will provide you facility to divide the hardware. It allows you to scale VMs for higher availability, redundancy, and performance. Like two key features are available there: virtual machine scale set and virtual machines availability set. So what is mean by scale set and availability set? So scale set let you create, manage, and group identical load balanced VMs. Like for example, if you create a one virtual machine and in that virtual machine you uploaded your website and that virtual machine goes down, what will happen? Your website will not be available. So what you will do with the scale set, you will create two or three similar virtual machines over the cloud. If one virtual machine will go down, that services will shift it to the second virtual machine. And second virtual machine will go down, that will go to the third. So that is called VMSS, like virtual machine scale set. Like I will give you example of other than IT. Like if you have three pairs of shoes, if you want to go outside and first shoes are dirty, you cannot clean it, so you will just make them separate and you will use the second pair of shoes. If the second pair of shoes is also not good, you can use the third pair. Same here, you will have three virtual machines, all same. You want to use one virtual machine, that is not available, you can go to the second is not available, you can use it third. So that will give you high availability. High availability means that one is not available, second is available, second is not available, third is available. Also, it will provide you redundancy. Redundancy means if one fail, the other will be available, second fail, third will be available. And also, third feature is performance. If you will utilize all three and you will divide your traffic on these three, maybe it will give you good performance. So the key feature is to virtual machine scale set and availability set is it will provide you availability, it will provide you redundancy, and it will provide you performance. That is scale set. So after scale set, you can create different virtual machine. If you see on the diagram, second diagram, physical server, virtual server. So you see on the left side, it is an architecture, only one. And the right side, if you see, it's a multi-tenant. So you can create multi-tenant environment or you can create multi. As per cost, if you see, one server will cost you more. Like you purchase one server with 32 GB RAM and your machine is using only 4 GB RAM. It's a waste of cost. It's a waste of money. But if you will use virtual server, you will utilize only that amount of RAM 4 GB and it will cost you only for 4 GB. No need extra hardware, no need extra money. So this is virtual machine scale set and availability set. So if you see another diagram, we can also scale it vertically and we can also scale it horizontally. So what is mean by vertical scaling and horizontal scaling? Like if you only need to increase the RAM, you will be vertically scaling. Like before you were having 4 GB RAM and you need to utilize more RAM. So you will click on the portal and you will make it 8 GB. That is virtually scaling. But if you will talk about horizontal scaling, it is multiple number of virtual machines. Like if you have one virtual machine that goes down, there should be another. So you can go vertically up and down, or you can go horizontally left and right. So difference is vertically you are increasing the RAM and hardware and processor up and down. Sometimes you will increase the RAM, sometimes you will decrease the RAM. Sometimes you will increase the processor, sometimes you will decrease the processor. If you need more RAM, you will increase. If you don't need RAM, you will just decrease it to low the cost. But you also need a availability. If one machine goes down, you need another machine. That is horizontal scaling. You got the idea? So what is the difference between virtual? What is the difference between vertical scaling and horizontal scaling? Vertical scaling is when you increase the RAM and processor up and down. You need more RAM, you can virtually increase the RAM. You don't need, you can go down. That is virtual scaling to increase and decrease the resources. But horizontal scaling is number of machines. If you need three machines, you can create three machines. If you want to increase to 4, 5, 6, 7, you can go more virtual machines. But that will cost you more. But if you want to decrease virtual number of machines, you can decrease it from 3 to 2, 2 to 1, 1 to down. So that is horizontal scale. So the main difference is vertical scaling will increase you the resources or decrease you the resources, and horizontal scaling will increase number of instances and number of instances or number of virtual machines. So that is the difference between vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. Now you got the idea? Yeah. Okay, so what is difference then? Availability set and availability zone. In previous session, we understood about availability zone. There will be three buildings. If the whole one building will go down, you will use another building. But if the second building will go down, you will use third building. That is availability zone as terms of physical aspect. But availability set in terms of virtual machines, like a horizontal scaling. If one machine in the scale set will go down, they will start utilizing the second virtual machine. That is availability set. So you can say that availability zone is up to the full building, and availability set inside the set. If one machine is not available, it will use second machine. Second machine will not available, it will use third machine. You got the idea? Yeah. Availability zone and availability set. What is difference? One second. We talk. Yeah. Yeah, if the whole building will go down, availability zone will give its authority to second building. Second building will go down third. So it is according to a big building in the availability zone. So that will use for fault tolerance. If electricity will go for one building, it will use the second building electricity. That is availability zone physically. But inside the building, if you have one machine only, if will go down, second machine will be there in the availability set. So availability set, you can say that it's up to horizontal and vertical scaling options, but availability zone is a full building fail and the second building will. And inside two options are also there, update domain and fault domain. So what is mean by update domain and fault domain? So update domain is basically number of virtual machines and the fault domain is number of machines. So for example, if I will give you example for that. So the main example is if you just go down. So if you will say that VM across the update domain and fault domain mean that against the hardware failure or maintenance downtime. Like for example, update domain mean if Microsoft will shut it down your one virtual machine, what will happen? That is not down by yourself. That is not down by region also. They are updating the machine. So what they will do? They will shift your services from one machine to another machine. That is called update domain. So always when you will create a virtual machine, they will create two or three update domains. If one domain they are updating, automatically they will shift your services to the second. If the second is updating, they will shift it to third. So that is mean update domain. So anytime you will create a virtual machine, they will create two or three update domains. That you can also increase and decrease while making the. And then fault domain, if one virtual machine goes down, automatically it will shift it to the second. So there are two options available, update domain and fault domain. So fault domain is always different power network sources, like it will be completely separate power, separate all these things. But update domain is the maintenance window. Whenever they will be maintaining something, they will always have the second option. So anytime you have to available things, you need to use that. Okay. Next is what are the use cases of these scale sets and availability sets and availability zone and update domain and these what are the use cases where you can use, how you can use and when you can use. Number one is testing and deployment. So whenever you are testing an application or you are deploying some new application, so you can use these availability sets and you can use these scale sets. Like for example, I am creating a website for a company. Then I am using one server for virtual machine for that. If while maintaining that, if something happened while testing the website, server crash or something, so what will happen? People will not able to use that website. So what I need to create? I need to create at least scale set or availability set. So if one machine will go down, the other should be available. So testing and development environment, we can use these things. Second, running the application in the cloud. Like I am running my virtual machine in the cloud. If one virtual machines will go down, people will not get access. So I can run the application in separate two availability zones or availability sets. Third, extending your data center. Or we are just making sure that my data center is not enough. We need also cloud services. We can use scale set or we can use the availability set. Disaster recovery. Like for example, if I am thinking where I am putting the data, it can go down, the whole building or whole region can go down. So I can use scale sets. One thing will go down, the other will be available. And finally, lift and shift. Lift and shift mean I want to carry my whole data center also existing and I want to put a backup on the cloud also. So if local data center will stop working or electricity is gone, then I can use the lift and shift and I can shift my whole servers to the cloud. So different use cases are there. If you want to lift and shift, if you want to use as a disaster recovery, if you want to use to expand your data center, if you want to run multiple application And if you want to use just test and development, all kind of different scenario will be usable when you are using the availability sets and availability. Next, we have VM resources and configuration. How we can configure these? So one thing, we can make it size, storage, and networking. Three things will always there. So CPU, RAMs, we can increase, decrease. We already have seen that we can increase the resources like RAM and all these things. Storage we can also change, and networking we can also make it duplicate. We can take two networking size and all. So one of the main tip is choosing the right size and resources is critical for the performance and cost management. Like it is very important to save the cost also, and it is very important to resources utilization for the performance also. Like if I am always using 4 GB RAM and people are always complaining your network is slow, so I can increase the RAM to 8 GB. But when I will increase the 8 GB RAM, it will double the cost. So I cannot use all the time 8 GB RAM. It is just for in case people are complaining. After some time, if the people resources are going down, I also decrease the things. Because if I will not decrease, every time I will be getting more cost. So always these two will come balance. If you will increase the cost, company will say why you increasing the cost. If you will not increase the cost, maybe it will be performance issue. So always you need to balance these two things, performance and cost. So in summary, all of the things will be having full control on the OS because we are having a virtual machine. Because virtual machine is infrastructure as a service. So infrastructure as a service will give you authority to control. We can scale out, we can scale in, we can horizontally scale, we can vertically scale. And it will provide me high availability and high availability sets. And also it will be flexible resource. And we will be flexible wherever you want to. So as a practical, at the end of the sessions, we will be doing practical also. We will be creating one virtual machine. We discussed already in the starting session, we will not include practicals during the sessions. So at the end, we will all create these virtual machines also, and we will understand because this fundamental, we don't need to deep dive inside the practical things. We need to know how we can create and all that. But at the end, we will create a virtual machine and we will do the practice also. Next, second thing is virtual desktop. Like we don't need to build virtual machines ourselves. So they will create for ourselves and we will just use it. Like I need to use Windows 11. I need to use Windows 10. So I don't need to create a virtual machine. Automatically it will be virtual machine there. I will just log in. That is called a virtual desktop environment. It allows you to use the cloud host version of the Windows. Like I don't need a hardware. I don't need to use Windows 7, Windows 11. I will just log into the cloud. There will be already built in Windows 11 there. I will just log in and I will use and save data and finish. But it will be focusing on desktop and application virtualization. So we don't need to worry about the hardware. Next, we have a security features all there. For example, I am using Windows 11 over the cloud. So what will be the security? So security will be with the MFA. We will understand in the security section, multi-factor authentication. And then it will give you role-based access. Role-based access means whatever I will provide the access, it will be giving only access to those. Like I will give you only to that virtual machine to read data. So you will be having only read access. That is role-based access. In next sessions, we have identity management. We will understand about these two features, MFA and RBAC. So for now, you need to understand that virtual desktops are always built in there and they have the role-based access control. And then you need to protect them with MFA. Then keeping data and app services also separate, like virtual desktop will be having over the cloud. You can save data on the cloud, you will shut it down and your data will keep safe inside the virtual desktop. Like if I will not use virtual desktop over the cloud, if I will use a laptop company given to me, that laptop I can take at home. So that data is not safe. Anyone can steal my laptop. Anyone can see that data or delete that data. But if I will save this data over the cloud, that will separate. So that is why keeping the data and application separate there. Data is separate drive in the virtual drive, and the cloud apps are separate from the VDI. And then session isolation also. Like if you are logging into the VDI, that will be separate session. Someone else is using a separate session. They will not have any security issues each other. So these virtual desktops are providing us different features, security features, access features, isolation features. So that is why these are very popular nowadays. Now we don't need to give employees separate laptops with separate windows to save data. We just allow them to the virtual desktop over the cloud, like Windows 10 and Windows 11. They will just log into the cloud. They will use window. They will put the data over the cloud, and they will not take data at home. They will not take laptop at home. So these virtual desktop environments are nowadays very common. We just can get them, and we can use these as a cloud services for people, and they will just have security. They will have MFA. They will have role-based access control and all these sessions. Next, we have Azure containers. So why we need Azure container if we have option already for virtual machines and virtual desktop environment? So container mean we can separate things in separate boxes. Like for example, if you have 10 services running for your company, all 10 services you will put it in one virtual machine. If that virtual machine will go down, then what will happen? Or if you want to increase only RAM for one app, you need to increase the RAM for the whole virtual machine. So that is the disadvantage of virtual machines. We have containers option. So we can create 10 separate containers for 10 services. If I want to increase the RAM for one application, I will just increase the RAM for one container, not for all virtual machines. So that is the option of containers available. If you see in the diagram left side, we have three different virtual machines, but here we have instances. If I am having 10 application, I will create 10 containers, and I will put each application in one container. So I don't need to increase the RAM of whole virtual machine. I just need to create one instance for one virtual machine, one application. If that application need more RAM, I will increase only for that application. So I will just upgrade one container. So containers just provide us facility to maintain things separately. And also, if my company is having 10 functions, one function is down, so the whole virtual machine will go down. But if I am using container for every application, if one services go down, the other 9 services will be running in different containers. Also, it is secure. Secure means if one person or hacker hack one virtual machine, so it will hack each and every application inside. But if I am using container, if the hacker will hack only one application, the other application will be secure. So there are different things we can do with the containers according to security, according to the services, according to the scaling. So these are all options are very flexible with the containers. So with containers, we don't need to worry about the underlying infrastructure. We are not bound to the one virtual machine. So we have separate services in separate containers. If one container goes down, no problem. The other services will be running. If one function is not working for the company, the other function at least will be working. So that is the idea of containers. So what these containers are providing, these containers are very low weight, lightweight, easily we can install. Like virtual machine, when we will reinstall after something happened to the machine, it will take 10 minutes. But if I will recreate that container, it will take maybe 2 seconds only. So the virtual machine is taking 10 minutes, but container will take only 2-3 seconds. So that is very lightweight. OS abstraction, no need to use the full operating system. We will use only small operating system instead. Fast start and restart. Virtual machine, if we will turn on, maybe it will take 2 minutes to turn on. But instance, it will take only seconds to start and stop. Docker support. Docker mean we can just already built in use Docker, and it will be managing all the instances. We don't need to manage all the instances separate. So virtual machine and container difference is virtual machine is having big entity inside. If something we need to increase the whole virtual machine. Something we need to secure the whole virtual. Something we need to change. But in containers, we can make it decentralized. So each and every separate application we can manage. Each and every separate application we can increase, decrease. So containers provide us very, very good services. So for you, general example is if you put each and every thing, like you want to go to office tomorrow and you need uniform, you need shoes, you need many things, badges and all these things. If you will put all these things in one cupboard and your child came and he locked that cupboard, what will happen? Everything is in that cupboard, so you cannot access even your shoes, even your clothes, even badge, nothing. You cannot get anything because that cupboard is locked. But what you will do, you will put your badge separately in the kitchen, you will put your shoes outside the rack, you will put your cloth in separate cupboard, you will put your glasses in separate room. So whatever you need to put, you will put all separate areas. So if your child will lock the cupboard, only maybe you will not get your clothes, but everything else is available. So you can go to the market, you can bring the clothes, and you can another uniform you can take it same, like you have a blue color shirt which is already inside the cupboard is locked, but everything else you already have. You have the keys, you have the card, you have the separate things. You just need only that shirt which is locked. So you can go outside and you can bring that shirt and then you can go to office. At least 90% things you will have outside. So that is the option of containers. One loss, no problem. You can recreate it. That will not affect the whole process. So that is the example of going to office. If you will put everything inside one cupboard, if that is locked, you cannot go to office. But if you will put separate things in different areas, if one thing is lost, you can have the separate things and you will get all the separate things, and the missing thing you can manage and you can go to office at least. Otherwise, you will not go to. You understand the idea of containers? Mhm. So, what is the difference between container and virtual machine? So, virtual machine is basically one entity. If it will fail, everything will be stopped. Containers have different things. If you will have one service fail, then the other services will be available. Same, if one is need to be updated, it will be updated only one container, not need to update all. So that will save the cost. Also, if one is hacked, the other container things will not be hacked. So according to security, according to performance, containers are good, more good than virtual machines. Next, we have a comparison between the containers. I put it in the table also. You can see on the left side, VM is having full OS, containers not having full OS. So it will be very lightweight. VM is very heavy, container is lightweight. VM take minutes to reboot, container will take only seconds. VM will take scale set manually, like we can increase, decrease VM manual, but containers have automatic process. So we can create automatic containers also. If one goes down, another will be created automatically. But virtual machines, we need to up and down. So the container instance, it will be fastest and simplest way. We can use it in our environment. So we don't need to worry about the underlying full virtual machine. So we can create separate container instances that will be giving us the provide facility. Second is Azure function. If we don't want to use the different containers, we can just use their built-in functions also there. If you see here, if we have a code, and then if you have event plus data, it will become the function. Like I just want to use some function. I don't, for example, in the school, I want to calculate something, or in the office, I don't need to go to market and buy the calculator. I will just take the calculator from someone and I will just use the function of plus minus and I will give back. Why I need to buy the full calculator? So the functions are similar. We will just use already built-in functions from Azure. We will utilize them and we will use in the service. We don't need to create virtual machines fully for that. And then we need to deploy full application. We just want to use some test functions. We will use their functions. So event driven serverless function don't need to run consistently, pay per execution. Whatever you just want to run, you will pay only. After run, you will not pay. Like for example, if you will create a whole virtual machine for that, maybe it will be running for 24 hours, but you need only function to run for 10 seconds. So why you will pay for 24 hours? You will only pay for 10 seconds. So the function will provide you only facility on the spot. Whatever you want to utilize, you will utilize. So what are the benefits? Focus on code only. You don't need to worry about the virtual machine. You don't need to worry about the container. You will just use your code and that code will give you authority to run the function. You will just run the function and use it. Same like I gave you example of calculator. Automatic scaling, same like containers. Automatically you can create 2 functions, 3 functions, 5 functions. Ideal for short and quick tasks. You don't need to build a whole structure first, then you can perform task. No, you will just go, you will use the task. Like for example, if you want to calculate your salary, you need an Excel sheet, and then inside Excel sheet you will make your own plus function or whatever calculation function is there. So you will just then calculate salary. But if it is built in already function there for plus function or minus function, you will just call that function and use it. Same like Excel, Word, PowerPoint. So same is here. If you already have built-in functions, you will just use it. Cost effective. You don't need to pay more cost for full container or full app. So you just will pay only by using the function. Maybe only $1 or $2. Can integrate. You can also integrate with your application. So that is the benefits of using the function. Azure application hosting option, we already understood how we can host our applications. We can create a virtual machine also, we can create container also, and we can use web apps also. So it's up to you. If you will create a virtual machine for hosting the app, that will give you full authority to the hardware. But if you don't need to worry about the hardware, you can go for the containers. But if you will not use the container, maybe you can just use a simple app. You will just create an app. You don't need to worry about the hardware and all that. So you will just simply use their apps. So it will give you automatic scaling also. It will give you support also. It will give you DevOps options also. And it will give you integration also available. So you don't need to create a virtual machine. You don't need to create containers and all that. You will just go SaaS, software as a service, or you will create a web app or API or web jobs or mobile apps. In the diagram you can see, and you can just create any app without underlying operating system, without underlying virtual machines and containers. So simply the options are available. If you want to build an app, you can create a virtual machine and then build an app. If you don't want to create a virtual machine, you can just create containers and then build an app. And if you don't want container also, you can just simply create app directly. So these are 3 options are available. Whether you want to create infrastructure, whether you want to create container, or whether you want to create only application. So cloud is providing 3 options, but different benefits are there, different disadvantages. If you will use virtual machine, you will have hardware management with you. If you will container, you will have also some sort of management. But if you don't want to manage everything, you can just directly go and create an app service. So next we have a virtual networking option. So that one was all related to compute. Now we will have discussion about little networking. How we will create different networks. So different networks mean key capabilities are isolation and segmentation. Like in networking, we have a VLAN idea. We can make it separate networks. Internet communication, we have different communication options, secure communication, connectivity options, and link virtual networks together also. If you see in the diagram, we can create 2 separate networks and we can link them together, which is called network peering. So different virtual net, we can peer it together. Second, there are different connectivity options are available. We can connect these virtual machines, virtual networks through internet, through Azure, or through on-premises. So if we will go through internet, so we will directly connect a public IP address, and that public IP address will connect it to the cloud. Simple as that. That is very easy option. Second is Azure option. Azure's providing virtual machines, Azure Kubernetes services, and also Azure is providing app services we already discussed. So that is we can connect it to the virtual network. And the final option is we also can connect our on-premises data center to the cloud. So simply we can just have site-to-site VPN or point-to-point VPN or express route. So these are the three options are available. We also have option available for the VPN. VPN mean then we can connect our on-premises data center to these virtual networks over the cloud, but we need to secure the line. So we need to create a VPN gateway. That VPN gateway will connect our local data center to the VNet. Then we also have a virtual network gateway over the cloud. Like for example, if we want to create this VPN connection between the cloud and on-premises, we have two options. We can go by policy based or we can go by route based. So policy based will apply us through the IP addresses. Like for example, I want to send data from local data center to the cloud. So I have already policy for my organization. So that will be policy based. Whatever policy will say, we will use that policy. But nowadays we are using route based. Route based mean it is using routing to dynamically. So if you have a basic idea of networking before, so networking we use routing for routers. So there are different protocols we use OSPF and different protocols we use EGP and BGP. So that will be based on the routing protocol. Whatever the routing protocol will decide, that will be the VPN option. Next, we have in VPN high availability options, like how we will create VPN, whether it will be active active or active passive. So if you use two VPN gateways, one will be active, one will be passive. So if you will use active or standby or active or passive, one will be working, the second will be in the standby. If one will fail, then the other will be active. But if both will be active, both will be working all the same time. So these are the two options are available. And the third option is express route. If these two fail, then the Microsoft backbone will come. Next, we have express route. Express route. If we don't want to create our own VPN connection, we don't want to manage our connection between the data center and the cloud, then we can use their Microsoft back. Like it will be costly solution, but it will be more effective, more performance wise good. Like Microsoft is already have their big backbone. They have fiber connections all over the world. So we will just use their network. We will not create our VPN connection. So what will give us, this will be little costly, but it will be reliable. It will be having good performance. So we don't need to create our own VPN connections to secure traffic. Different VPN connections are available, but that will be slower. And also this will be less chargeable. But express route, we will use their network, their fiber cable, their everything. They will be having little more cost. That will be costly solution, but that will be more secure and more efficient. And finally, we have Azure DNS. DNS mean you already know what is mean by DNS. DNS is to resolve IP addresses to name. If we want to resolve IP addresses and name inside our cloud, we don't want to give our instruction to outside DNS, then we will create our own local DNS inside the cloud. Like for example, I am opening the Google and that is going to the cloud outside cloud to the public internet, and from the public internet it is resolving the name to the IP. That is not secure. So sometime we create our own internal DNS inside the cloud, then the query will not go outside the cloud. It will be very secure. So the benefit is it is reliable and it will be having very good performance because query is resolving inside your cloud. So it will be faster also. And the second thing is security. Your queries will not go to the public cloud, so your connection will be secure. And finally, easy to use because it is your own DNS. you can easily use inside your infrastructure. So the important point here is Azure DNS does not sell domain names because we don't need domain name also. Already domains are already there. So you can purchase them via app services domain and third party registers. For example, if you want to use the DNS server from the cloud, they will not provide you domain name like tanveer.com, google.com like this. So you need to purchase from outside. So that is the disadvantages of DNS also. They will not provide you domain. Domain you need to purchase from outside, then you can use their private DNS. So there are benefits also. It is faster, it is reliable, it is secure, it is ease of use. But the disadvantages, they will not provide you domain. Domains you need to purchase from outside. So in summary, in session 6, we understood about compute services, containers, virtual machines, functions, and then we also understood about virtual machine scale set and availability set, Azure Virtual Desktop, and then we move towards the apps, containers, virtual machines are available to host the applications. And finally, we understood about the networking, virtual networks, different virtual peerings available between the networks. And then we understood about VPN gateway. Different options are available to connect the local data center to the cloud. So we need to create our own VPN connections to secure them. But if we don't want to use this one, we can use the Microsoft Backbone Express route. But that will be very costly. But that will be efficient and secure. And finally, we understood about Azure DNS. We can create our own DNS inside the cloud. So that will be efficient, that will be faster, that will be secure. But the disadvantage is only they will not provide domain names. The domain name we need to purchase. Any questions in these two sessions, left and right?